Let's check out 15 singer-songwriter chords you must know. Obviously, there are tons of chords out there you're going to want to learn, but we've put together this list of 15 really interesting sounding chords that will help spice up progressions as you're playing and even working on songwriting. So let's check it out. The G chord we're going to play looks like this. First finger on the 5th string, 2nd fret. Second finger over here on the 3rd fret, over on the 6th string. And then we're going to do the 3rd finger and pinky down here on the 2nd and 1st strings on the 3rd fret. So it's a little bit different than a usual G chord. Sometimes we may have seen G chord that looks like that with just the 3rd finger over there. But when we close that off a little bit, it gives it a little bit tighter sound. All the rest of the strings are open. It gives us this sound. So that's a really cool sound in G chord. The C Add9 chord has our pinky and 3rd finger up there on the 3rd fret with my 1st finger on the 4th string and my 2nd finger on the 5th string. So it's this shape. Now I'm going to find my 3rd string open, but the rest I'm holding down, and that gives me this sound. When I strum this one, I don't want to strum my 6th string, so I start strumming from here. So this is our C Add9 chord. The D chord is played with my 1st finger on the 3rd string, 2nd fret, 2nd finger on the 1st string, 2nd fret, and then my 3rd finger over here on the 2nd string, but on the 3rd fret. So it sort of forms this little triangle shape like that. Now I don't play my 6th string or my 5th string, so I start the strum from the 4th string on down, which gives me my D chord. D sus4 is really what we call a D suspended 4th chord, but we call it sus4 for short. So our D sus4 has my 1st finger on the 3rd string, my 3rd finger over here on the 2nd string, and then my pinky down here on the 1st string. So it's a lot like my D chord, but I've replaced my 2nd finger with my pinky out there. Same thing, don't strum my 6th or my 5th string, but it gives me this sound, a really nice sounding chord. For the D sus2, I'm only holding down 2 notes. My 1st finger on the 3rd string at the 2nd fret, and my 3rd finger is going to be here on the 2nd string on the 3rd fret. So my 1st string is open and my 4th string is open, and I don't play the 6th or 5th strings. And it's going to sound like this. So it's pretty easy to play this one, and this one goes great going back and forth between a regular D chord and a D sus4 and that sus2. Gives you a nice option there to go between those chords. The E minor Add9 is a pretty unique sounding chord. It starts with a regular E minor that I'd finger like this with my 2nd finger on the 5th string and my 3rd finger on the 4th string, so just a regular E minor chord. But I add the 9th on there by using my pinky on the 1st string on the 2nd fret. And that gives me this sound when I play all of the strings, play all 6 strings. So it's got a nice sound to it and certainly can go back to an E minor. But that E minor Add9 adds a little flavor to your playing. Let's look at our E major chord. Starts with our 1st finger on the 3rd string, 1st fret. My 2nd finger goes over to the 5th string on the 2nd fret, and then the 3rd finger is also on the 2nd fret, but on the 4th string. So it's this shape here. Remember, always play on your fingertips to get the strings to ring out, as clean as possible. Now, the rest of the strings, including the 6th string, will be open. So you strum it, and you want to make sure all strings are ringing out. Good idea is to pick through each individual note. Make sure you don't have any that going on. If you do, try to get more up on your fingertips and make sure you don't have a finger that's leaning on another string so it rings out really clearly. And that's your E major chord. The F sharp minor 11 is a really cool sounding chord. I start it by putting my second finger on the 6th string on the 2nd fret. Then my third finger is going to go to the skip a 5th string and go to the 4th string on the same 2nd fret, and then my pinky on the 3rd string on that same 2nd fret. Now the one thing we want to pay attention to is we don't want to have the 5th string ring out. So I want to lean that second finger over here on the 6th string. I want to kind of lean it on the 5th string to kind of kill that. That note open is in the chord, but it just sounds less muddy when I mute that one. So I'm going to mute that, and the top 2 strings are open, and it's going to give me this sound. So it's a pretty cool sounding chord that really sort of conjures up a lot of melodies. You can hear a lot of cool things happen in that one. So experiment with that chord. Let's look at the A sus4 chord. Starts with my first finger on the 4th string on the 2nd fret, and my second finger on the 3rd string on that same 2nd fret. Then I'm going to use my third finger out here on the 2nd string on the 3rd fret. My 1st string will be open, as will be my 5th string. We don't play the 6th string on this one. So if I play this chord, it's a really nice chord, and it sounds great going to an A chord, which we get there by just sliding my 3rd finger back down to the 2nd fret. So it's a really cool chord to have in your bag. The A sus2 starts with my first finger on the 4th string, and then my second finger on the 3rd string, and then the top 2 strings open, as is my 5th string, which is the A string. We just don't play the 6th string here, but it's going to sound like this. It's a really cool chord to go back and forth between the A and the A sus4, back to A sus2. Make a nice chord progression just out of those 3 chords. Our F chord has us barring across 2 strings with 1 finger. So we're going to start with that. My first finger is going to cover the 1st and 2nd strings on the 1st fret. Now a good way to practice this is actually start on the 2nd string with just a regular holding that note down, and then sort of flatten your finger down until you get that 1st string held down as well. Good way to practice that until you get it to sound like that. Once you do, then drop your 2nd finger on the 3rd string and your 3rd finger out there on the 4th string. We don't want to play the 6th string or 5th string here. Just want to play the top 4 until we get our F chord sounding just like this. Pick through each note individually, make sure you've got them all ringing out, and there you have your F chord. The F add9 starts with something similar to our F, but we don't have to bar across 2 strings. So we start with our first finger on the 2nd string, second finger goes on the 3rd string, and our 3rd finger out there on the 4th string, just like we would with an F. But unlike where we have to hold those first 2 down, I'm going to drop my pinky down here on the 1st string on the 3rd fret. Still don't play the low 2 strings. So we just want to make sure we get this one ringing out, right? Pick through each one. But just strum that, and we can certainly take that off and go to an F chord. But that F add9 really is a cool sounding chord there. The D minor 6 only has a couple of fingers on the neck, but it still has a really unique and full sound. Starts with my first finger on the 1st string at the 1st fret. And then I'm going to go to my 2nd finger on the 3rd string on the 2nd fret. Simple as that. But I want to play my 2nd string open and my 4th string open. So I don't play the 6th or the 5th strings. So I start strumming here and just go right down. And it gives it a really nice D minor sound. So it's that minor 6 that you hear in there. Makes it a much more full sound than you would think by just putting 2 fingers on the neck. It's your D minor 6. Let's check out how to play an A minor 11. So we'll start with my first finger on the 2nd string, 1st fret. My 2nd finger is going to go to the 3rd string on the 2nd fret. And then I'm going to reach with my pinky down here and catch this 1st string, 3rd fret note. Okay, so I'm not really playing anything with my third finger here. We also want to make sure we're not picking the sixth string, but we are going to play the fifth string and the fourth string open. So it's going to sound like this when we put it all together. It's a nice addition to your A minor repertoire, an A minor 11. B sus4 is a pretty interesting sounding chord. Actually, I start with my first finger on the fifth string on the second fret, and then I drop my third finger on the fourth string and my pinky down here. So it looks a lot like a power chord. The difference is I'm going to also play the top two strings open. Now, a really cool thing about this chord is you can actually experiment with moving this around. Now, it'll change it. It will no longer be a sus4 chord, but it sounds pretty cool when you take it and move it up the neck. You get some pretty interesting sounds just by experimenting with that B sus4.